So, everybody, I'm so excited. It's just another amazing day, and this episode of Ave Unfiltered, literally, you don't understand, one of my most amazing, beautiful, treasured friends and sisters, Meagan Good, here in the building, not actually, but virtually, getting ready to just have an amazing conversation, let you eavesdrop on our convo today. It's going to be amazing and incredible, and I know now you feel like you know her because of all of the amazing accomplishments that this young, beautiful Black woman has. With an accomplished career beginning at an early age, Meagan Good has developed into one of Hollywood's most sought-after actresses for both film and television. Good just completed production on Sony Pictures' Monster Hunter, set for a September 2020 release date with Mila Jovovich and T.I. She has starred in some of Hollywood's biggest hits, including the box office smash Think Like a Man and Think Like a Man 2, starring opposite Taraji P. Henson, Gabrielle Union, and Kevin Hart. Anchorman, The Legend Continues, Stomp the Yard, and so many more. As a versatile actress, Good has starred in multiple genres of films ranging from horror with Michael Bay's The Unborn to comedy with The Love Guru starring Mike Myers, Jessica Alba, and Justin Timberlake. In one of her first major roles in 1997, eerie family drama Eve's Bayou, she received critical acclaim for her powerful performance opposite Samuel L. Jackson, being nominated for an NAACP Image and Hollywood Reporter Award. Good's ambitions led her to produce her own independent films such as Samuel Godwin's Sundance Film Festival Acquisition, A Boy, a Girl, a Dream, Love on Election Night with Amori Hodrick, in which Good also executive produced. She has received various Best Feature and Best Actress Festival Awards for her work. In addition to her pursuits as an actress and producer, Good is a staunch advocate for the empowerment of young women. Meagan and her sister, Lamaya Good Bellinger, launched their nonprofit For the Greater Good Foundation in 2011. Good is also the New York Times bestselling author of The Wait. Meagan is also set to star in Tracy Oliver's untitled Harlem Project for Amazon. Good now resides in Los Angeles with her husband, producer, preacher, and author, Devon Franklin. Listen, if you can please put your virtual hands together for Mrs. Meagan Good, also Franklin. Okay. Hi, honey. How are you?
Hi, sis. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Listen, I'm just excited about today because your episode is called Girl, Wait, It's Worth It. Literally, I don't know of another human being who has such an incredible testimony like yours regarding waiting, regarding just allowing the Lord to take his time and walk you through purpose than you. So I'm just grateful that you said yes to this conversation because I know that it's going to help so many women and just people, because if it helps a woman who is married to a man or in a relationship or considering it, it just builds the conversation around what is God really doing? How is he doing it? And us being okay with his timing versus our own. So listen, everybody, you're in for a treat. There is no one better than Meagan to have this conversation with. So we're just going to jump in, girl, like we're on the phone and let them hear us talk. Literally. Okay. Thank you for being a part of Ave Unfiltered today.
Yeah.
So listen, I know in your field of endeavor, the waiting game is literally like a way of life. Literally, you're waiting on a call back about a role. Maybe waiting on open call season to come back around to see if you're going to audition or not. Waiting on the right moment to pitch an idea So, what can you encourage us with today for our viewers and our listeners that will help us be okay with the waiting aspect of our purpose?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because in my particular field, it is a waiting game always, but it's also literally a faith walk. You never know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen. You're really just trusting God through the whole process. And so, as it pertains to just like waiting in life, like when it came to it's crazy thing is I wasn't even waiting on my husband. I was just like waiting on God. I was just like, I am in such a rough season of life right now, and I'm hitting rock bottom. And I've tried to do things my way and not
Yeah.
wait, and try to move the way that I think I should move. And even with the best intentions, at the end of the day, I wasn't asking God, what do you say? And what do you want to do? And what do you want for my life? And what do you say about this relationship? And these, it seems like, a small thing, but I asked God, like, what projects to get involved in, and like,
Yeah.
what events should I go to, and what people should I have in my life, or what people should I separate myself from. And I try to be very specific in asking him as much as I can, because when I know that he's in it, that's when I can have confidence, and I can be safe, and I can trust that he's working out whatever it is. And as far as waiting, when you wait on him and you do it his way, and he's in it and all over it, it's a complete game changer. He knows us better than we know us, and he knows what's better for us better than we know what's better for us. So
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think a key word that you said, it's safe. It is safer to wait. It's safer because sometimes our rushing, we miss things that are key to
mhm,
the decision making process while we want something so bad and we're like, God, listen, I'm tired of waiting. And we take matters into our own hands. And
mhm,
sometimes we miss that fine print, not even if it's printed, just that those key moments that give you the pause and like put the brakes on, girl. Listen, I feel like honestly when you said the word safe, it kind of spoke to me, and I think it will speak to a lot of people. There is nothing safe about rushing into things that you cannot see on the other side. And I
mhm.
feel like God gives us this olive branch of his timing not being ours and ours not being his. And we are so developed in the waiting process. And I feel like, for lack of better words, if you just sit still, it's so much better for you. Like, my mother has told me that. I remember growing up, she's just like, girl, if you would just sit down somewhere and just wait. We're always like, Mom, I want to do this, or husband, I want to do that. Or, I look at my kids and I'm literally like, they're asking all these questions. When can we do this? When can we do that? When can we do this? And I'm
Mhm,
like, if you just have a seat, you will understand better that this is for your own good, for you to wait and
mhm,
allow that process to play itself out, because
mhm.
as it does, you will learn more about you. You will learn more about what God is doing in the waiting process. I don't know what
Absolutely.
it is about us that is just like, we don't want to wait. We want everything right now. It's got to be the microwave mentality. We don't want
Yep.
the oven baked, fully through and through process, which proves beneficial to us in the end. But I know, just by knowing you, watching your career, watching your relationship, and gleaning from it with such wisdom, that there are many people who can understand that taking the necessary time to walk it slow
Mhm.
will give you so much peace on the other side of it when
Oh,
God reveals himself to you after
mhm.
that waiting.
And
I
also,
know it.
even in the process, it's you get frustrated sometimes, sure, you get impatient, sure, but when you stay underneath his umbrella, you can feel, even though you don't have the peace of getting what you want right now, you have the peace of knowing you're in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
And the reverse is when we rush things or we move on our own, we accumulate so much damage and so much baggage and so many things
Oh,
that we would not have gone through. And at the end of the day, God brings it all full circle for our glory, for his glory, and for our good. But we put ourselves through a lot of things that we don't necessarily need to go through
right.
when we try to do it our way.
That's true. That's true. It saves us the unnecessary pain. Hear that part, take it
Yeah,
down, jot it down if you're journaling, if you're listening. Save yourself some unnecessary pain by trying to rush past process. It's not even worth it. And you've been in the entertainment industry literally forever, since you were a child, and it's
yeah.
brought you some beautiful amounts of success. I know that you've had times where there was literally a battle within yourself to admit that waiting would prove beneficial in the long term versus, an immediate
Gratification.
satisfaction.
Hmm.
So, has there ever been a time since that you thought, I want more, but you admitted to yourself this is just not the right time?
I think when I was about 19, I was in that weird transition phase from child actor to becoming an adult, but still looking a little bit like a child, but like really trying to get that opportunity. Um, and that was like the season where I would see a lot of people my age like going on to work and getting projects, and I was really kind of struggling in the in between phase. And that was the first time that I literally was like, I want more. I want this to happen, but I didn't actually ask you. Like, I've been
Wow.
in this career since I was 4, doing it seriously since I was 13. And at this point, I'm 19. And I realized I've never really asked you, is this what you have for me? And
Wow.
that was the first time that I was like, okay, what if I ask him and he says it isn't? That would just break my heart. But I was like, I don't want to go down a road that he doesn't want me to go down, only to find that out later on. I would rather ask now and be obedient to whatever he tells me and trust that he will give me the passion and the joy for whatever road he puts me on. And
Right.
so when I was 19, I just said, Lord, I want what you want for me more than what I want for myself.
Oh
Tell me
gosh.
if I'm on the right path. And I think that sitting down was really why I got the chance to ask that question. If I was working consistently, in it and just moving, I would just assume that I'm on the right path, or I probably wouldn't even have been thinking about it. But that
Right.
sit down made me go, okay, wait, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. And so, and then the first thing that I got confirmation in my spirit was like, yes, you're on the right path. This is what you're supposed to be doing. However, it's not about you. And
Oh
it's not about
boy.
the work that you do. Like, that's the gift. You get to enjoy the craft, you get to enjoy doing something that you love. It's about the platform that I'm having you build. It's about how I want to use you. It's about how I want you to grow to be trustworthy, and just what I want to do with this platform. This is for the kingdom, so this is why you
Right.
get to do it, and you get to live in your passion and love it. Just understand that it's bigger than you. And as soon as I understood that, the peace that flowed, like, over those next few years, yeah, 9 out of 10 times they tell you you're not the right person for the job for one reason or
Right.
another. There's tons of rejection in this business. And, with God, I learned not to take it as personal rejection, and
Right.
really take it as God's protection. He said, this is where I'm going. He said he's going to use me. He said this is the platform that he wants to begin to build it on. That's happening. No matter what
Yeah.
anybody says, no matter who tells me no, no matter what
That's
keeps me away,
right.
even myself, that
Uh-huh.
is what's happening. So that sustained me. And it also taught me, the tools to just not compete with other women and really be excited for someone when they win. Because I'm like, I know that God has a plan for you, and I know where you're going. I don't know exactly where you're going, but I know God has a plan for you. I know that
Right.
God has a plan for me, and I know where I'm going. We're not in each other's way. We're here to root each other on, to support each other, to help carry each other when we feel like we can barely
So
walk.
good.
That's a responsibility to each other, because the one thing that we all have in common as human beings is that we are all here to help each other. That's one common thread for a fact, and so just having that clarity and waiting on God. And I've had to do it in more than, I've had to do it in 20 seasons. I'm in the season right now. But that's a thing that gives me clarity, that gives me peace. Even when I'm frustrated and ready to make moves, I have the peace
Yeah.
because I'm like, no, I'm in alignment, and I'm seeking him, and I will find exactly what he wants me to do. So if I'm in there, it's better than being out here and getting something popping and not having peace.
Yeah, you know what? I think that a lot of times we get so bogged down with what we want and what we feel is happening that we actually miss that aspect of hearing from God. And
Yeah.
so the point of that question for people, if you are in a season right now or just came out of a season, or if you are looking or feeling like you're entering a season where you're not quite sure if what you're endeavoring is actually going to benefit you in a way, or you're uncertain about what the next moves are, I I would admonish you, and I would love for you to solicit the voice of the Lord
Mhm.
in those moments. And sometimes I feel like, honestly, Megan, literally when God is doing new things inside of us, that waiting is like a natural part of it. It's
Right.
so worth it for us to just be still, because um I've wanted this in a moment, and I realized if God had given me that in a moment, that it I would have missed what I couldn't see around the bend. And a lot of times we don't realize that the waiting is in the perfect will of God. And so as we wait, God is stirring something inside of us that gives us the necessary and the requisite um, um, ability to be able to maintain once we get what we think we want. Because sometimes we can pull up to that thing prematurely, and then we have
Mhm.
no idea how to actually operate when we get there. We
Mhm.
get
And
there, yeah, we
mess it
get
up.
there, we don't have the staying power. We haven't been through an experience that would allow us to understand what we're seeing, actually have us walk it out in ways that will allow us to flourish in it in greater ways than we could see and that we can understand, because sometimes our limited ability will cloud our judgment. And a lot of times in those moments where we are fidgeting and upset with ourselves about why we have this tug of war going on inside of our minds, God's like, the peace that I can offer you in the waiting period would absolutely serve you well for understanding that my hand is here extended. It's just not the time now. And if he says not now, it doesn't mean not ever. It just may mean not now. And I think
Right.
a lot of times we take that no that we may receive as it's a cancellation, or as it is something that means it's not for you, when the truth is that that no, like you said, is serving as protection from the thing that you aren't able to visualize, because you are so focused and hell bent on what you want in the moment versus what God wants for you in the long term, that will ultimately give him the most glory, and people to see him more through your waiting, and to see him in new ways. Because life is like, literally, if we allow God to do what he wants to do in us, then the fulfillment comes because we're in his perfect will. We find ourselves getting into a thing that we thought we wanted and being so sad about it. We're heartbroken. We're unfulfilled. We're like, God, this is what I thought I wanted. I've gotten here. This doesn't feel like you. It doesn't look like you. Nothing about this is giving me the peace and the joy that I expected to have. When, if you look back, it's like, instead of taking that no that you thought was something that was hindering you and embracing that no in the season that you were in, then here we are, and we're like, wow, God help me. Like, I'm here. I've messed this up. What can I do to get back? It saves us the necessary or the unnecessary detours if we will just take a moment to say, hey, if you're unsettled, it's okay. God can work this out. God can fix this, and everything can be okay. You have this amazing, beautiful testimony around waiting and meeting, marrying the love of your life, our friend and brother Divine Franklin. And the two of you authored an amazing best-selling book called The Wait, a powerful practice for finding the love of your life and the life you love in 2015. And for those who may not be familiar, can you just share briefly how your mind was able to embrace the waiting in the aspect of relationships and just how it was worth it for your heart, honey? Because you guys are incredible. You have blessed so many people, and especially me. When you guys show up and just talk about this, it has freed so many people from that I gotta have it now. What's wrong with me if my relationship didn't work? Oh gosh, is there another opportunity for me to find real love, to find real peace? Tell us a little bit about that waiting and how it was worth it for Divine and
Yes.
how the book came about.
I'll give you a little bit of backstory. So I didn't grow up in like, a household where we went to church all the time. My mom was very much like, read your Bible, have a relationship with God. It's not about religion, like really get to know him. And so I will say, like, when I was like, I got saved when I was 12, after a friend of mine, well, a mutual friend who protected me a lot in school, ended up passing away in a car accident.
Oh
So
no, I'm sorry.
our other friend, who was someone who looked out for me because of the area I grew up in, was a predominantly white neighborhood. I dealt with a lot of bullying and a lot of racism, and she just took care of me. She got saved that night, and I was just, my mind was blown. Like, how do you get saved after what you just went through? And something
Wow.
about her example led me to the Lord. And so I always believed in waiting until I was married. And when I was about 19, I had my first little love, and I was like, well, this is the guy I'm gonna marry. And I made my little excuses and all that stuff. And then throughout my 20s, I really struggled because I would be celibate for a time, and then I'd be in a serious relationship, and I'd make all the excuses that we make as Christians in our head about why it's okay and
Absolutely.
why God
Yeah.
understands. And we pick and choose which ones we want to do.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, I had met Devon when I was, I think, 24. And so I met him on like a general meeting, and we just connected over being Christians in the industry and just wanting to build the kingdom in the industry. And then over the next about 6 years, I would just see him at different events and stuff. So when I got Jumping the Broom, which was the movie we reconnected on, it was crazy because I went in. I'm such a long-winded person. Sorry. I went in
No,
for
no, go ahead.
So I went in for the lead, but at the time they just made an offer to Paula Patton, and she had passed. So I went in for that part, and then they were circling back around to me, and they said, you know what, Paula accepted. So I was like, okay, cool. So then they offered me the best friend role, and I was like, well, I don't really want the best friend role, And so I was like, but let me just pray about it. And I prayed about it, and God was like, who do you think you are? Who do you
Wow.
think you are? And I was like, I received that. Thank you, Jesus, for this opportunity. I had no idea what he was doing. Got my little bottom on that plane in Nova Scotia, and then me and Devon reconnected on set. And I was on the tail end of a relationship I had been in for almost 4 years. Um, he wasn't a bad guy at all. We just were not good for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, the few times that I would see Devon and talk to him on set, I'm like, that's the kind of guy I wish I could marry.
Oh
And
my
because of the
gosh.
Yeah, and it's crazy because of the dysfunction that I have been through, I felt like he was out of my league. I felt like he was too good for me. And so when I left Nova Scotia, I was like, Lord, I'm at a really, really rough point where I've hit rock bottom, and I'm making some bad choices, and I really need your help. And so the first thing God told me was, get out of the relationship that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. And it was hard because I still loved the person. I still wanted to be with them. But when
Yeah.
I heard God say it, I'm like, nothing I ever do will change the fact that that's what he told me. It will
That's what
never
he
be a
said.
different answer. That's what he said.
Literally
Um,
on the other side of God said there's nothing else except for what he
there's
said. There's no
there's nothing.
negotiation, there's no
No.
discussion.
If
Yeah.
you could be married to 20 years to that person, it don't matter. After 20 years, God still said no.
That's
So,
right.
so I was like, okay, so I got out of the relationship. That was hard. The second thing he said was that I needed to be celibate. And I was like, Lord, I feel like you understand though, like this is like the hardest thing. And in my spirit, I just knew, yeah, it is the hardest thing. That's why it's the thing you got to do. And I was
Wow.
like, okay. And then the third thing God told me was Devon was my husband. And when I heard it, I was a little bit confused because I hadn't really talked to Devon, and I didn't really know him that well at all. And I was like, well, what do I do, Lord? And God was just like, nothing. Just work on you. Just focus on me. Let me
So
be that.
good.
So that's what I did. And
Key ladies, if you're listening, Megan said that the Lord told her that Devon was her husband. He did not tell her to go and tell Devon that
right.
immediately. She was told something, and then she was told to work on herself and do nothing. That is
Yeah.
something that we need to hold on to, because a lot of times we will think that we have the permission, if you
Mm,
will, to share with another human what God said. And if God said it
yeah.
to you, He said it to you, not for you to share that information until it's time. And
Right. Or
sometimes
until God
prematurely.
shares that information with them, you know?
Yeah. There's that
God didn't
manipulation aspect that we don't know we're operating in when we
yes.
run
When
ahead
we
of
try to
Him.
get thing.
You listen. God
Listen,
said it. I believe it. That
I'll
settles
wait
it.
for it.
And come on.
That is the truth. That is the truth. And
Yeah.
after I knew, I didn't tell anybody for 5 months. And then about 5 months into it, I felt released in my spirit to start speaking life over it. So I started telling friends and family. I was like, God says, Devon is my husband. They were like, how do you know? I'm like, because God told me. And they're like, okay, Megan.
Okay.
And then I spoke it for like the next 4 months, and then when we reconnected at the premiere for the movie, it was like literally we were like, do you want to go get coffee? And then 2 weeks later we went on our first date. God told him on our third date that I was his wife, and then 10 months later we were engaged, and 2 months later we were married, and it's been 8 years.
And it's been 8 years.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and I still like him.
And you still like him and still love him. Listen. And that's the best part. Because
That
it'd be a
is.
tragedy if you didn't.
Listen, we all love them. We love the ones we marry, but do we like them?
But do
That's a
you
totally
like
different
them?
conversation. Yeah.
It's true. Because there are seasons where you're like, man, you are on my nerves. I love you. I do not like you today. And you're like, God, is that right? And He's like, it's perfectly cool. Let's
Yeah.
get back to it and figure it
Yeah.
out. But I think the beautiful part of that is when you recognize that all of your decisions in your own power did not lead you to the end that you wanted to have. So the role that you did not get initially, the one that you went for,
Hmm.
someone else had said yes, but they saw you in a different role and you were going to pass on it initially
Hmm.
until you met with God, right? Hear this.
Yeah.
Until you met with God and He asked you, what are you doing? You're
Yeah.
interrupting my my flow for you. So you
Check
go
yourself.
ahead and you acquiesce and you're like, I'm the best friend. You're
Yeah.
Blythe. That's one of my
Yeah.
favorites. Um,
Ah!
for me, in that moment, when I've heard you guys tell this story, it's like you never understand how you end up where you are or why you're there at the time you're there for the season you're there until years down the road you're happily married, you've authored books, you're working this thing out together to show other people the way, God's way, and you're still fully fulfilled in your career, still vibrant. You haven't missed anything that you feel. Same for him. He's embraced every part of you, every aspect of you. And he even is like, do not come for her because he will get you together. And that also blesses me because I am all for holding it down for your husband and your wife. It's just a beautiful thing to see. But I think that what I would love for people to get in this is worth it aspect of waiting is that you recognized where you were and where you didn't want to be. And instead of making perpetual decisions that would lead you to more heartbreak, more pain, and misunderstanding about where you were headed, as far as relationships, You allowed yourself to be at peace with waiting for what God wanted in a different way, and it gave you a different result.
Hmm.
You all are the epitome of what I pray and I hope that people grasp in this moment of reconciling all of the years of pain. I don't really consider relationships as failed. I consider them as learning and growth opportunities. I don't really subscribe to failure at all. I believe that everything is necessary. If you went there and it didn't work out, what did you get from it? What can
Yeah.
you leave there? And what can you take with you for the next opportunity you have to get it right? Um,
Amen.
there is beauty in process. And if you can not remember anything else from this talk, it is that there's safety, there's beauty in process. And if you just allow yourself to let God navigate you through every aspect of your life, you will be so blessed. It is so worth it. Gosh, time flies when you're having fun. We are winding it down, but I just want to talk about something that we may not have ever considered. There's a scripture in Isaiah 40:31, familiar to some and maybe not so much to others, but those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. Amen. They shall mount up on wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Sometimes our purpose is developed in the waiting. So, can you please share the blessing it was for you, where your life has headed and where it is heading due to the process of just embracing that scripture? Those who wait
Yeah.
on the Lord shall renew your strength, because you can get weary in waiting. And I know
Yeah.
you've probably gotten weary, but share what a blessing it was just to embrace the fact that the Lord was going to meet you for where you're headed for the
Yeah.
process.
You know, waiting on God has been, I don't even want to say like transformational to my life. Because it started a long time ago. It started, I think I really realized that it was something that needed to happen when I was 19, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I identified it as like a specific um, intentional part of like what I needed to do in life until maybe like 10 years ago. Um, and the peace that it's given me and the way that it's changed my life, especially as it pertains to, when me and Devon came together, you know, I had no idea how much God had in store and how much He would honor me just trying, to just do the best I can and really just follow Him and listen to Him and do the right things by His standards, not by my understanding. And not only did it bring me an incredible husband, it also brought me a lot of healing. It
Mm-hmm.
also brought a lot of revelation. It also brought a lot of confidence in who I am and who God says I am. It affected my career. It taught me a different type of like habits and ways to approach things and to just really have like trust and know that the thing that comes, is the right thing. And even in that, like just checking with God and just the peace that I have, even when I go into set, I'm more effective as a Christian. I'm more
Yeah.
usable to pray with someone or to speak life over to someone or whatever it is, just because I know I'm in alignment. So just that weight on Him and knowing that I'm doing what He would have me do, and no wondering, if I'm getting
Yeah.
it right or if I'm going the right way, because I waited for the answer before I made the move. Or even if I'm in it and I'm like, Lord, reveal it to me, trusting that I'm asking the right question. The
Yeah.
peace that it's given my life has just been, I mean, it's made all the difference in the world.
Yeah, it's a learning process for me too, because sometimes I'm like, God, how did I get here? What are you expecting of me? And
Mhm.
He's like, you wouldn't be here if I wasn't going to accompany you here.
Yeah. Amen.
Some of the places, some of the doors that He opens in our lives, we will stop the conversation. We will talk ourselves out of it. And He's like, I'm not done having the conversation. So I'm not going to allow you to talk yourself out of it. You have to trust me that I'm with you, that
Yeah.
I have established my voice inside of you. So when you start talking, I'm going to speak through you. But you
Mhm.
have to just make sure that you don't give up and that you're not weary and that you're not um, having a lack of confidence where he is concerned, because any time that it's a God move, he is going to be with you through it. And that is so beautiful and it's so incredible, and it blesses me so much. So you yourself, you've had so many amazing, incredible projects: television, film, artistry, directorial efforts, and more. Was there a weight in either of those things that caused you to absolutely change your mind completely about them altogether? One of them, like in any of those facets, like, you know what, I was headed down this path. I had adopted this project, but I decided to abort the mission because God is
Yeah.
saying something completely different.
I do that more often now. It's weird
What?
because, yeah, like when I was younger, I think I wanted to work, and like every job was just an opportunity. A few years ago, I did a project. I'm not going to say which one, but I did it in exchange for help with a project that I was trying to develop.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came full circle, I knew that I wasn't excited about this project. When I got to set, I didn't feel right in my spirit. I felt like I gotta, finish with a level of excellence because I'm here and because I
Mm-hmm.
committed to it. But when it was all said and done, the person didn't keep their promise or their word.
Oh
Um,
no.
and and I wasn't super happy with the way I looked. I wasn't super happy with my work. And I knew in my spirit that I was somewhere that I probably shouldn't have been. And I made a vow from that point forward. And that was only probably like 5 years ago. I was like, I am
Really?
never going to walk on a set that I don't want to be on again and that I don't feel right about in my spirit. It's not like God said, no, don't do it. I believe that I had his permissive will, but I don't think that was really what he had for me. And I could feel it in
Yeah.
my spirit. And so, by the grace of God, I got a husband. So if I'm in between jobs, I'll be all right. I didn't have that
Listen.
option back in my early 20s.
Amen. Because
But
sometimes I need you to help me over here because it's not
listen,
working.
listen. So, but it's been nice because now I don't let myself be pressured. Like I don't when it comes to like if it's about God or like respecting him or representing him, there's no pressure. It's if it ain't right, it ain't happening, period.
Right.
But if it's just
Period.
about like a friend wanting me to do something or like should I get involved with this project or not, and like I don't like to let people down. I usually just put so much pressure on myself and end up in situations
Oh my
that I'm not
gosh.
comfortable in. And so in this season, like I've really just been like, Lord, you tell me, because if you say it, then I don't have to feel bad when I say no. Because that's what my spirit's
Listen.
telling me. That's what God's telling me. Is
Oh my
beyond how I feel,
gosh.
you know?
Listen. That, I don't know what it is about us that, and I think it's just, it's a little bit about our upbringing that wants to people please, not to the point of, self sabotage, but I feel like that sometimes we feel bad about saying no. And God allows us to say no. He allows us to embrace those moments where, you know what, I'm just not available. And for my sanity and for my peace, I can be available to everybody and everything, because then everything that I'm supposed to be focused on goes lacking.
Yep.
And I will no longer be in that space. I don't want you to be in that space. If you're listening or you're watching right now, take this wisdom nugget from Meagan. She's telling you sometimes it's okay to release yourself from obligations that God did not assign to you. It's okay. It really is. It really is. And you
Amen.
guys, time flies when you're having fun. We're finished today. Literally, we are headed out. Meagan, my goodness, why did the time go by so fast?
I
Thank you
know.
so
I know.
much. Thank you so much for joining me. I've had so much fun just hearing you talk and hearing you share around waiting and how it is so worth it to wait. And just before we leave, if you can share with us a Meagan get us through phrase of grace to drop on us just really quickly before we leave, something that will get us through that is specifically from you. What can you
Mm.
tell us? If
Um,
you can leave us with one little glimmer of light
yeah,
or hope, especially for where we are in this climate right now.
I would say number one, know that you are here and you were created to literally be in this season. And so, what you bring to the world, what you bring to your family, what you bring to your friends, nobody else can do the way that you can do it. And
Yeah.
so, lean into who you are, lean into the fullness of who God's created you to be, into the uniqueness of your individualism, and love yourself and know that you're worthy. And have peace in this season as much as possible, because if God has allowed it, then he's going to bring us through it. And if he's allowed it, there's something in it for us,
Mm-hmm.
collectively, but also individually. And every single day and every single moment of every single day is a day in a moment we can never get back. So we have to be present, and we have to find joy, and we have to seek out peace, and we have to try to bring that joy and peace to those around us, and use this unique moment to bring what we can only bring, and embrace it, because it probably will never be like this again. And we have
Yeah.
a lot of time, but we get to use that time the way that we feel is best. And I think that the wonderful thing is we get a lot more time with God to press in on purpose and specific things that are for us individually and collectively. So embrace it, love you, know that you're worthy, and that this
Yeah.
season, it kind of seems like it sucks a little bit, but it is designed for all of us to get something incredible out of it. So lean into it.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Ave Unfiltered. This episode with Meagan Good, Girl, Wait is Worth It, speaks to my soul, spoke to my heart. I pray that it spoke to yours, and we can't wait to see you back next time. Have a good one. God bless you.
Love
Yay!
you.